Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name is Jay Isso, and oh, man. I mean, do you remember? I'm a little older than probably, well, most of you that listen to the show, but listen, I remember The Wizard of Oz, right? I mean, it was, when I was little, right, it used to creep me out, right? Because, I mean, it would scare me to death, but I couldn't resist because it would come on every year, on public TV, and it would come on every year, and you'd go and you'd be there, and it would be Dorothy, and Toto, and it would be the witch and Glenda, and Candyland, the whole thing, right? The wizard, the whole thing. Okay, did you know that I didn't know this until my friend Dr. Kevin Gazzara sent me this book called The Leader of Oz. He wrote a story about Oz. No, not the Oz that you know. It's the Oz that he created, and he's got 101 leadership lessons from this book called The Leader of Oz. Oh, Mabel, it is awesome. I'm just telling you, it is a great book. It is absolutely outstanding. It is the most fun leadership book that you will ever read. I promise you, I am promising you this. It is the most fun leadership book you will ever read. I picked it up. I could not put it down. I read it in one sitting. I even skipped meals. It was that good. It was so delicious, and it was fantastic. We're going to talk to Dr. Kevin Gazzara, but before we do that, let's do what we do every week, right? Listen, hey, we're four-part people. We're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual people. And the truth of the matter is we need to be working on all four of those areas daily, right? Now, listen, when I say daily, what I'm saying to you is there's different dimensions in all of this, right? So we rate ourselves on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, my training's not very good. 10, my training could not be any better. But the point is that we've got different dimensions within this. So physically, if you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, exercise, your diet, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep. If you were to look at those dimensions, I understand that you're not going to exercise every day, right? But you may be a little bit better on your diet that day, right? Mm-hmm. You may be drinking a little bit more water that day. Maybe you get yourself a little more sleep because you lack sleep. The point is that you're doing something to work on yourself physically. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being average, physically, how would you say you're doing with your training? Okay? This is how it works. All right. So that's your first number. Second number is the mental number. My wife loves to say, don't be a mental loafer. Don't sit on a couch and expect stuff from a TV to come at you and expect that you're going to learn and grow. You can't do it that way. You've got to be an active participant. Oh, by the way, here's a great way to be an active participant. Read a book. That would help you. This book would be great because I got to tell you something. This book works both halves of your brain, both the creative and the logical side. And you know how I feel about whole brain activity, right? It's awesome. It ranks right up there with learning a new language. It works with learning a new instrument. But reading is so good. And, when it comes to your mental number, what are you learning? How are you learning? How are you engrossing yourself? Are you really learning more about your job? Or do you think you know it all? Because when you do that, guess what? You're falling behind. That hurt. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say your mental training's going? All right, third number, emotional, right? We talk a lot about Daniel Kahneman, Daniel Goleman, who talk a lot about emotional quotients and emotional intelligence. The truth of the matter is, folks, I make it real simple. How are you doing in your training when it comes to controlling your emotions under stress and pressure? Right, that's the first one. Second one is how well are you able to tap into and understand the emotions of others? You're going to learn about, there's this, the star of this book is called Dora T. See what he did there? Dora T, right? Dora T. And you know what? She's under a lot of stress and pressure. But how does she handle her emotions? And at the same time, even though she's under stress and pressure, understanding how she's able to tap into and understand the emotions of others is a really powerful piece of this book. Meaning that, folks, we have the power within us, regardless of what's happening in our life, to be able to, first of all, control our emotions. But secondly, being able to still be able to tap into the emotions of others, even though we're under stress. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you say you're doing? All right, finally, the fourth area is the spiritual area, right? Look, here's the deal. Move the physical, the mental, and the emotional. And what do you have left? Well, it's pretty much spiritual is what you have. Because we all believe in something. We all run to something. When things go south, when things go bad, What's the first thing that you run to make yourself feel better or be at some sort of peace? That's your God. Whatever it is, that's your God. That's your idol. That's the thing that you run to. The truth of the matter is you have faith. And some of you try to deny it, but the fact of the matter is, you know what? You got up, right? Not even thinking about it, but you had faith that the sun was going to rise tomorrow. You can try to deny it all you want, but you really did. You put that spoonful of oatmeal in your mouth and you had faith that it wasn't poisonous because you ate it. When you stepped off the curb today to walk towards your office, you had faith that nobody was going to run into you when they were driving their car by, didn't you? That they were going to stop. See, we live by faith all the time, right? But the spiritual area is what brings you to a place of centeredness, a place of peace in the midst of your chaos. And then I ask you, is it working? And it could be a number of ways. It could be God, could be nature, could be meditation, whatever it is for you. The question always comes down to, is it working? What do you need to change it? So what's your number? Those 4 numbers are like the legs of a chair. I'm now moving to, I think I like it better that it's like the tires on your car, the 4 tires on your car. Because if you got one tire that's flat, it really changes the dynamic of how you're going to drive the car. And if all tires are too low, it's really hard to drive the car well in different terrains. And so you want all your tires to be inflated at the right level. And because if they're not, it's a big, big problem. Well, speaking of somebody who's got all his tires inflated right, his name is Dr. Kevin Gazzara. He is an author, executive coach, professional speaker, and recognized management expert. Dr. Kevin is currently a senior partner at Magna Leadership Solutions, which you can learn more by going to magnaleadership.com, based in Phoenix, Arizona. He has spent the last 30 plus years developing leaders in the corporate world, where he retired from Intel Corp after 18 years of service. In addition, Kevin has been a faculty member of 6 different universities where he has taught leadership, organizational behavior, marketing, and business strategy. You can contact him at kevin@magnaleadership.com. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show. And welcome to a new direction for the first time, Dr. Kevin Gazzara. Welcome, Dr. Kevin.
Jay, thank you so much. I'm not sure I can maintain the level of engagement and power that you have. I'm going to do my best to keep up with you.
You know what? You're going to be fine. It's rare that somebody can, but I get a feeling we're going to be fine because, first of all, this book is outstanding. This is a fantastic book. I was serious when I said I could not put it down. I even took it. I know this is a George Costanza thing, but I even took it into the bathroom with me. I mean, I just could not. I couldn't stop reading it. I know people are out there going TMI. Jay. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not returning the book either. It's staying on my bookshelf. So there's that. So you could do that. I actually want to start at the end of the book. And I'll tell you why I want to start at the end of the book. Because the end of the book, and I'm not going to give away, by the way, the story, I'm not telling, there's no spoiler alert here. Okay, because I'm not giving you anything. All right. But I'm gonna just tell you it's really, really good. It's so cleverly written. I just love it. We'll talk about some of the names. At the end of the book, one of the things that you talk about is that you talk about your leadership philosophy, and you say one size does not fit all. And that stuck out to me. Because a lot of times when we talk about leadership, we talk almost in generalities that, you know, like the leadership fits one size all, but that's not your philosophy, is it?
No, not at all. In fact, we teach it. We do something called our Leading Forward Academy, which is our leadership program that Magna Leadership does, that we've done. In fact, we have one running at the moment in Shanghai and one in Tokyo. We just finished one in Amsterdam. So we do them live, we do them virtual. And what we find is that you really have to build your model based not only for you, also you need to build your model based on your followers and what they need. And it follows very much along the lines of a servant leadership model, which is, you know, started with Robert Greenleaf, you know, back in the 70s. Awesome model. And many of the books that are out there today are really all built on that foundation. And that's one of our philosophies. The difference is many of the other authors who have fantastic books, I've probably read them all as I was doing my doctorate in organizational leadership, are exceptional books. And, you know, having a model, we wanted to create a model that was simple enough that people would use it. And it also allowed people enough flexibility so that they could build something that would work for them. Because being a leader in different parts of the world, in different industries, whether you're, in a manufacturing plant that's doing chemicals in Texas, or you're in the Bay Area where you're running organizations doing software development. The environments are a little bit different, and we wanted to give you an opportunity to a formula, a process, a system that will allow you to build your model based on some really good statistical data that my co-author, Dr. Lakhani, had done actually for his doctoral research, which is what the book came out of.
Well, first of all, it's so well done, and you accomplished the tasks. There's something else that you say underneath your philosophy, though, I want to read to you that I want you to expand on for me. Most companies and organizations have the right people. However, people engage in their work at their maximum potential only when their leaders take interest in understanding and accommodating their behaviors, values, and learning styles. Right. And I would like you to expand on that, because I think it's a missing piece. Listen, I agree with you. I've done a lot of leadership books on this show, but I think the word understanding and accommodating behaviors, values, and learning styles is critical to a great leadership program. So expand on that a little bit more so that people get a better understanding of that.
Glad to do that, Jay. I think it's so important. One of the things that we found is, starting with the top portion of the philosophy that you mentioned is one size doesn't fit all, that in one of our processes is that you have to really assess first, right, to figure things out. And what we found was we used lots of different behavioral assessments, values assessments, task preference assessments. We have some that we use that we really like from Target Training International. We worked with TTI for over 20 years. They have some awesome assessments. So we use their trimetrics, which is DISC, values, and competencies. We use the task quotient, which identifies task preferences for individuals. And the thing is that if you don't start to understand, when we talk about this in the book in detail, as Dora T. Gale works through that, as Dora works through it, what we found was that if you identify your behavioral style, we use DISC, other people use Myers-Briggs, and some people use the Big Five. There's lots of different assessments out there. The Hartman assessment, I think, is one as well. So if you identify your behavioral style and the styles of your others and understand that first, and then understanding both your values, so what drives you, and understanding what drives other people. I was fortunate enough, I got to listen to your podcast with Dr. Sharon Lamb Hartman. And if anyone hasn't listened to that, let me put a plug in. She was awesome. And a lot of her foundational pieces around authenticity is really one of the foundations of the Leader of Oz. So the two books, I think, will work incredibly well together. And then the third thing is that once you understand the individual's values, kind of what motivates them, whether it's intrinsic, extrinsic, and kind of crafting the system to fit them. The last piece is understanding what we call the task quotient, or TQ, which is the third assessment we use from Target Training International. And what that does is it looks at your ideal mixture, just as Dora does in the book, of what's the percentage of routine troubleshooting and project tasks that you love to do. And each one of us has a different mixture. And once you identify your ideal mixture, there's 496 different mixtures. Once you identify that, and you work with people on their behavioral styles, you understand their values, and you create an environment that's going to keep them there. Pretty much what we have found working with lots and lots, dozens and dozens of different companies over the last 15 years since I've left the corporate world. And we've, in fact, today is our 15th anniversary. We started Magna Leadership on the 15th of June, 15 years ago. So it's interesting that today's the day to kind of talk about our foundational piece. Once you have those three pieces in place, what we have found with every organization, 100%, regardless, that almost every organization has the right people. And they just haven't structured the environment in the right way. So they're communicating through behaviors, they're motivating through values, and they're creating a work structure that really resonates with people. And if you can do that, and the really great news is it's free.
Mm.
It's free. You don't even have to give any money to do this. You just have to spend the time to do that. And if you can do that, you can create these awesome organizations. And in order to do that, you have to have great managers and leaders. And fortunately, there are not a ton of those around. They have the potential, and they just need a little bit of structure, whether it's the Oz methodology or something else.
So in the book, at the end of the book, we're still at the end of the book. By the way, this is the first time I think I've ever started with the end of the book first, but I like it. I'm liking it. So at the end of the book, what we learn is that this book is actually an assessment,
right,
of 100 different leadership. Would we call them traits? Is that
practices? Yeah, traits, practices, activities, approaches. Fill in any of those words.
Right. Okay. So then what the assessment is at the back, and you give yourself a score on if you're doing this or not doing this, and you're analyzing 4 areas: the brain, the heart, the nerve, and the wisdom. Is that just a coincidental Wizard of Oz?
It's not coincidental, by the way.
No, it's not. No, it is absolutely intentional. I know it is, but it's just so funny because we go through, right, brain, heart, nerve, or courage, wisdom, right? We're going through all 4 of those things, which is what happens not only in this book, but of course the original Wizard of Oz. And you evaluate us on the score. Explain to us how brain, heart, nerve, and wisdom work together in order for us to understand the marvelous leadership score, or that's what you call it.
Yeah. So one of the things that we did was we recognized through Dr. Lacani's research, and I was fortunate enough to kind of be his doctoral mentor when he was doing his dissertation. I had finished my dissertation many years before, and then he became a student of mine. And the interesting thing was what we learned about each other was that he actually worked at Intel, and he worked in Sacramento. I worked in Chandler. We didn't even know each other, and we got connected through as he chose his committee for his doctorate. So I got a chance to work with him, and I was just so impressed with the work that he had done, looking at leadership from a cultural perspective. And then when we dug into it, what we found was the assessment that's in the back of the book aligns with the different DISC styles as well, right? So there's that, if you look at DISC, for those people that have used DISC before, or even Myers-Briggs, it's similar, is that, there's really 2 axes, right? That you have speed, right? Certain people like to work faster. The other side of the equation is certain people like to work more deliberately. We don't say slower, right? Taking the time to do it right the first time. And then the other axis is with regard to focus, whether it's task focus or people focus. And each one of the, as you'll learn, hopefully you recognize as you read the book or have seen The Wizard of Oz, what you recognize is that each one of the characters has a very, very distinct DISC style, with regard to the D being the dominant style, I being the influencer, the S being steadiness, and C being the conscientious style. So the nice thing is when Baum had written the original book, whether it was intentional or not, I don't know, all of those styles were represented very, very explicitly, and it just works so well with the research that we did. And how we chose the leader of Oz, I can tell you if we have some time during the session today.
It's awesome. Well, it's I'm gonna tell you that this is why this book is really, really so well done, because not only is it, first of all, it's a great story. There's 100 leadership lessons in it, and then on top of that, you get this free assessment that comes with the book to help you kind of gauge where you're at in these 4 areas, and it's really, really well done and clever, and you're going to really enjoy the book. So I suggest that you run out and you get yourself a copy of this. Is there an Audible copy of this available too?
Yeah, we actually just released the Audible copy in November. Okay. We hired a voiceover artist. She did a fantastic job. I think she did a fantastic job. Awesome. And it's just a little over 3 hours, right? Oh. So you can get it on Audible if that's the way you like to learn. And by the way, if you do get it on Audible, it'll give you a link to talk about the assessment that Jay is mentioning. The interesting thing, Jay, as you know, reading the book, is you can't just go to the assessment and fill out the assessment. You have to read the book, and it walks you through all of those elements so that you can get your evaluation. So
you really do. You have to do it. Listen, I like I said, I read it. It's fantastic. You know what? This is good something to tell you. You know what? You're listening to Dr. Kevin Gazzara with me here on A New Direction. We'll be right back after this. Hey, folks, Epic Physical Therapy, my physical therapist. Look, I love them. I go to see them. I know a lot of people who go to see them. The truth of the matter is even professional athletes go and see them. And if you don't have to be an athlete, though, you could just be like somebody like me who just likes to do dumb things and get injured and needs some help getting back on the game. So you know what? When you're ready for epic relief, your epic recovery, your epic results, go to epicpt.com. That's epicpt.com, EPIC. pt.com. And Linda Craft and Team Realtors. Oh man, I'm telling you, they help people all over the world. How do they do that? Well, it's really easy. She's independently owned and operated and is unaffiliated with any national company, but for more than 35 years, she's created these amazing relationships with professionals all over the world. There's a reason why her customers say that she's, a legend of customer service. It's true even in the professional world. So when you're ready to sell your home, buy your home, go to lindacraftandteam.com. Go to lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And I got to make a shout out to Hint Water, the official beverage of DB and ATV. If you're watching us on DB and ATV, you know that we love Hint Water. We think you should get some. I love it. You know what? Even David Bruner, who's his TV station, loves it too. Why not check out Hint? And we're back here on A New Direction with Dr. Kevin Gazzara and his book, Leader of Oz. And we're still in the back of the book. Don't worry, folks. You did not miss the front of the book. We have not actually started. We started in the back intentionally. I want to say one thing more about the back of the book before we actually get into the story. One of the things you talk about is that the Leader of Oz presentation, there's 10 dimensions of marvelous leadership. And I don't know how much we want to get into this, but maybe we should just talk about some of these, because the first thing, and you mentioned it, is the first dimension is authenticity. Mm-hmm. Maybe just talk about that. Anything that we do in leadership has to start there.
Yeah, the 10 dimensions I can mention so people can kind of get the full scope is authenticity, communication, creative leadership, competent leadership, confident leadership. There's the cultural leadership, both national culture as well as the company culture. There's empowerment, reinforcement, stewardship, and vision. And what Dr. Lakhani found through his research is he went and he looked at the 10 most popular leadership models that were out there. And what he recognized that all of them touched on some of these, some more so than others. There wasn't any particular model that hit all of them. And the one thing that was really missing was that there was only one model that focused on business results, and there were no models that focused on what we call organizational performance, hiring and retaining your best people. So really?
Really?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So there were, so the models that are out there, lots of great models. And what he had done was he recognized that there were some gaps, and he said, and Dr. Lakhani is also brilliant Six Sigma lean statistician and so forth. He teaches lots and lots of leadership programs in many different universities. And he said, I believe statistically that I can show correlation between these 10 elements and business results and org performance that no one has done. And that's what he did over probably close to 20 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So
it was. I was so impressed with the work that he had done. But let me get back to your original question, which was authenticity. And Sharon Lamb Hartman talks about this in your other session. So she goes into significantly more depth than I think that we're going to get into. The thing is to be authentic, you have to know who you are, and you have to know who your followers are in order to be authentic. A lot of leadership programs try to turn you into what their model is, and we recognize that doesn't work. And there was some great research that was done by Harvard Business Review back around 2000 or so. And they said there's really three elements in a good leadership model. The first is the first thing you have to do is know what they call know thyself, right? And that's the reason we use all the different assessments. And then the other thing is that you have to understand others. And that's why we use the assessments for the other people. So when you're working and developing your leadership model for your organization, you can make sure that your authenticity and what's needed is there. And then the third element was what they called initiating and sustaining change. So if you just do the first two, where you know yourself and you understand others, but you don't initiate and sustain any change, is what really leaders are all about, then you really have to question whether you're really executing as a leader. But the authenticity is, a lot of people haven't taken the time to really assess themselves. They kind of have this gut feel. There's so many excellently researched and statistically validated. We only use statistically validated tools because there's a lot of tools out there that are kind of interesting without any statistical background. The ones that we use will tell you what it is and give you some really good foundational pieces to kind of show that it's valid enough that you will believe it.
Yeah, I don't want to make too much of a big deal about authenticity. We talk about it a lot on the show. A lot of leadership books talk about it. But I think one thing that just is so critical is if you don't really know who you are, really know who you are. A lot of people think they know, but they don't want to do enough of the in-depth research to know. None of this is going to work. Right? We just can't get past it. You can't jump into communication if you don't know authentically who you are. You can't jump into any of the other 9 dimensions if you really don't understand who you are and how you do those things. You can't have confidence without authenticity. I think that's the key to me. That when we look at all these dimensions is, are you willing to be, and you may not like what you see, but that may be just who you are.
Yeah, I think you have to start there. And I would say a majority of the inquiries that we get, where generally we get the inquiries where organizations are kind of really stuck. They've got high turnover. People are not happy. They're leaving. Everyone's grumbly. They're not getting production out. And that's usually when they realize, hey, we probably need some help from an organizational development or a leadership organization. And they want to know, hey, what can you do? Like, do you have a 4-hour class that can fix this? And it's like, right. No, you can't do this. Right. That you really have to start with the internal, as you point out, the internal reflection, dealing with the hard messages, and doing it in such a way that it feels complementary to kind of your thinking, as opposed to, one of the things that we learned in the model is that, people only take communications, which is one of the elements of the model. People only take communications in one of 2 ways. They either take it as an opportunity or as a threat. That's it. There's no middle ground. Our brain puts it's digital, puts it in category A or category B. And the key is that as you learn about yourself, there's going to be a lot of areas that you may rate yourself more highly than others, and you may not want to go into. The key is if it can be presented in a way that it's an opportunity for growth and learning, as opposed to, hey, you got to fix this, you're screwed up here, then you're more likely going to be able to get the change to happen. And that's really our goal, and any good consultant's goal is to be able to present it in such a way that truly the leader hears it and is willing to initiate and sustain the change. Unlike
Witchell in the story. So let's kind of talk about, let's introduce some of the characters of the story and give people flavor of the story. So we have this town in Kansas. I was from Nebraska. I don't remember there being a farm den, Kansas. There could be, but I don't remember. If there is, it's population 3. the heroine of the story, who is head of HR of Marvelous. By the way, it's Marvel. I think what is it?
Snacks. Marvelous Snacks. Yeah.
Marvelous Snacks. Right. Our heroine is Dora T. Get it, people? Dora T.
Yeah, Dora T. Gale.
Yep. And she's in HR, and she has a little terrier dog by the name of Rainbow. And there's the president of Marvelous Snacks, and his name is Marvin Lewis, who is the. You see what he did there? You see what he did there, right? And then of course he's got some other clever names. Last names are Woodsmith, Coward, and Strawman.
Yeah,
I'll let you go with what you think from there. What those things are. Anyway, we go through this story, and we get introduced to the characters in chapter 1, and then you provide us with some marvelous leadership secrets at the end of each chapter. And so I just want people to hear, like, after chapter 1, here's some of marvelous leadership, and then I want you to go ahead and jump in and tell me, okay, let's talk about this. Put people first, results will follow. That's leadership 1. Why was that the first one?
Well, the way the way we wrote the chapters was that there are usually like 5 to 7-ish leadership secrets at the end of each chapter. And what we really wanted to do is, we didn't want to call it a summary. What we wanted to do is, we wanted to kind of make it very, very explicit of the types of things in that chapter that were being brought out in the story. So if you missed it, or you glanced over the chapter, or skipped a couple pages, we wanted to make sure that you didn't miss it. So that's one of the reasons. And if you look at any leadership model, leadership is about people, is about leading individuals, as opposed to management, which is about managing things and processes and so forth. So you have to start with the people. And it doesn't mean that you have to be touchy-feely or nice to everybody. It just means that you need to understand yourself as a person, and you need to understand your staff, or the people that you work with, or even clients if you're a salesman as a person.
All right, so I'm going to give people a little flavor of this book. I don't want to give too much away, but I feel like people need to get a little bit. Okay, so we just gave you a little bit of highlight of chapter 1. I'm just going to give you a little highlight of chapter 2. Chapter 2 happens that Marvelous Snacks, there is this possible merger that's going to happen between Glenda Osborne. Work with me, people. He wrote this. It's brilliant. Glenda Osborne, who owns Osborne Technologies, otherwise known as the Land of Oz. It's beautiful. And she lives in Ruby City, California. By the way, I don't know if there is a Ruby City, California, but to all this, well, if you should live in Ruby City, California, I just want to say to you, you're on your own, okay? Because we do not know where you live. So Dora is forced to fly to Ruby City to evaluate the merger between Osborne Technologies and Marvelous Snacks. And one of the lessons we pull out there is, and I thought this was interesting, it's Secrets 5 through 9, recognize that success is neither permanent nor a chance occurrence. Let's talk about that one for a second. That would intrigue me.
I think people kind of, it's the old adage about people get kind of fat, dumb, and happy, and it goes back to some of the kind of foundational pieces you're talking about, is where they get content. They really have a dependency on what they had done in the past, as opposed to continuing to essentially build their brand, build their confidence, as we talk about in one of the marvelous leadership practices. So I think that is very, very important, that you need to, it doesn't happen by chance. It's usually deliberate. You have to hold yourself accountable. And if not, you need to work with somebody that can hold yourself accountable, whether it's a coach or a mentor or a colleague or a friend, whatever. It could be a spouse, family member. The key is quite often, we find most people try to do everything on their own. And it oftentimes becomes overwhelming. The thing is that if you get a success, it's usually because, work that you've done at the point in time, or years of work that's been done in the past. that has kind of culminated there. The key is don't get overly confident. It just means that there's more to learn. I think you had mentioned it before, which is that if you stop learning, you're dead, right? That life is all about continuous learning and putting good processes in place so that you can really build your what we call your SCA, your sustainable competitive advantage, or your brand. And if you can build that, then you can contribute, right? And the servant model is all about kind of giving back and contributing.
So there's another one. There's another one in this chapter that I want to ask you about because it kind of hit me. It's number 9. Initiate bold strategies to transform and align the organization with the changing environment.
Yeah, well, after spending 18 years of my life at Intel, and I was fortunate enough to have great opportunities. Intel was a fantastic place. Clearly one of the role models for a learning organization. I came in as a marketing engineer. I became a product manager for them. I managed different chipsets and so forth. I was a GM, general manager for them for a small division. And then I had the opportunity to move over into doing management and leadership development. And I think the thing that I learned through doing the development and working with lots of great consultants when I was at Intel, and that's kind of one of the things that kind of inspired me that this is what I wanted to do. And I had this personal goal that at 50, I was going to retire and then give back, for organizations that didn't have 10 or $20 million to do leadership development. And that's what we've been able to do. The thing is that when we brought in a consultant in, and a lot of the book is based around some of the work that the consultant that in the book that talks about was really modeled after a gentleman by the name of William Daniels, Bill Daniels from American Training and Consulting. And one of the things that he recognized, and I was fortunate to go through that transformation in the 90s with Intel, was that if you don't have all your organizations aligned from the top to the bottom with all of the objectives so that they link, right? And why you're doing what you're doing. And when your manager says, "Hey, I want you to do this extra project," you have to say, "Okay, how does that link to my current objectives?" And then you get into this negotiation of like, well, if it doesn't link, then maybe you ask yourself, should it be an objective here that we should add? And if so, what are we pulling off? Because the tendency in every organization is that organizations will kind of continue to load additional things onto your plate until it breaks, and that's just not a healthy way to do that. And that's what we talked about, kind of aligning all of the objectives and the strategies all the way at the top, so that everything cascades down. And Intel became a master at this, and I was fortunate enough to kind of help with that transition.
So, by the way, the consultant who is to be renamed in this book is named John D. Mayer, right? And by the way, John D. Mayer is the management consultant of Lollipop Confectionaries. I just want to point that out to everybody. And his famous quote in the book is, "You won't know where you're going if you don't know where you are." And it is a beautiful quote, and one that I think we should all take to heart, actually, is the quote. All right, so chapter 3. I'm telling you, folks, this thing is so cleverly written. It's just so beautiful.
Well, Jay, I have to tell you, we had Dr. Lacani and I had so much fun writing this book.
You had to.
And as you could tell, we kind of got a little bit silly. We tried to get all of the different elements, from the Wizard of Oz into the writing, and that's why we have things, like the funny names and the Lollipop Guild and so forth in there.
Well, so I want to introduce people to some of these other characters because they are so cleverly written, and I think they should know. So Dora T, she's now in Ruby City, California. She's at Oz, otherwise known as Oz Technologies. And chapter 3, which is entitled "We're Not in Kansas Anymore," we kind of get introduced to some other characters over there in Ruby City that she's going to evaluate. First of all is Glenda Osborne. Now, what you need to know about Oz Technologies, folks, that we haven't told you about, is that Oz Technologies allows you to bring pets to work. So Dora gets to bring her terrier,
Rainbow.
Right. So Glenda Osborne, who is the founder and CEO, she has a pet cat named Munchkin. There is Eve L. Eastwick, who's now dead, by the way. And she is also known as Eve L., the Wicked VP of the East. We have Mitchell Westfall, otherwise sometimes known as Witchell, who is the financial manager and now head of HR, who has a pet monkey named Wingo, also known as the Wicked VP of the West. And then these three are beautiful. The head of IT is Cher Crow. Just wait for it. Cher Crow. Okay, good. The head of design and development is Tim Mann. You can see where he's going here. And then my favorite, and I hope you this too, the head of sales and marketing, Howard Lee Lyon. Beautiful. These are such beautiful characters, by the way, and you do such a great job developing these out and pointing out the leadership lessons. And I think in terms of Myers-Briggs, because that's what I was trained on. Mm-hmm. All the years going to graduate school and working on my master's and doctoral work in psychology, it was Myers-Briggs. And of course, I'm pulling all the Myers-Briggs stuff, and you DISC or Enneagram or whatever you want to use, Big Five or Ocean or whatever. It's so clear. I never would have seen it as a kid, but as an adult, you just see, the Myers-Briggs or the DISC coming out of these characters. And, we deal with these people every day and we don't even realize it, do we?
Yeah. And, the nice thing about Baum when he wrote the book, The Wizard of Oz, is that whether he had done it intentionally or unintentionally, the characters are so rich to be able to align with the different styles. It's just amazing, and it worked really well. The other thing that we could do to keep the book short, so it is a pretty quick read, was that we could base all the characters are based on the Wizard of Oz, right? So if you've seen the movie, the behaviors of all of them and how they act, right? So that was great for us as authors, that we could build upon it, as opposed to have to say, okay, so Howard Lee Lyon, right? The Cowardly Lion. We didn't have to build a lot on that. We had to show how that shows up in the business environment. But when you hear the name and you hear the activities, his behaviors align 100% with the movie, right? So
yeah. Well, he doesn't like confrontation,
right,
and he cowers away from the big boss, Mitchell, and he is just so anti. There's no courage, right? Because what does the Cowardly Lion want in the Wizard of Oz? He needs courage, right? And we get that immediately from Howard Lee Lyon, right?
Right.
And it's just beautiful how you didn't have to go into in-depth the characters, because we knew the characters,
right?
But you gave us enough to go, oh yeah, I've worked with that person before.
Yeah. Well, that's what we were hoping for. That as you're reading the book and it's like, oh my God, that's exactly this character. Oh, I've been doing it all wrong. Right. Avoid conflict. I need to do the different approaches. And I think the brilliant thing that Dora does so well as the HR person kind of coming in is she really tries to lead by example. Mm-hmm. And you see all throughout the book, through the different activities, how she deals with, in an authentic way, how she deals with the different styles. And our hope was really that as you see the different styles and you realize, hey, why this personality doesn't work for me, or why I have so much difficulty, you can see as what Dora does, and then hopefully have that aha moment of like, oh, yeah, I guess I could try that, and that might help.
His name is Dr. Kevin Gazzara. The book is called The Leader of Oz. Oh man, it's so good and it's so much fun. You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, Epic Physical Therapy, my physical therapists, I talk about them all the time. But you know what? Here's the deal. I love the fact that they have the latest top-of-the-line equipment, anti-G gravity treadmill, the Normatec compression sleeves, my favorite, the Game Ready ice compression. What more could you want? That's just a few. Look, They are trained and certified in the most cutting edge treatments like blood flow restriction therapy, dry needling, cupping. That's just a few. You want epic relief? You want epic recovery? You want epic results? Go to epicpt.com. That's EPICPT.com. And Linda Crafted Team Realtors for more than 35 years. Her customers and clients call her the legend of customer service because she understands that the key to success is the relationships that you make. And you know what? Her first client still sees her from 1985. That's right. Very first client still sees her from 1985. Why? It's because that relationship matters, as they all do. And so if you really want to deal with somebody who's going to build, maintain, and cultivate those relationships, and you know what? Do well, whether you're selling a home or buying a home, start with Linda Crafted Team Realtors. You can learn more by going to lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend Kevin Gazzara, Dr. Kevin Gazzara, sorry about that, and his book, The Leader of Oz, Revealing the 101 Secrets of Marvelous Leadership for the 21st Century. The thing is about Dora, first of all, one of the things, there's a subtle thing in this book that really stood out to me. You know, all the time, and I'm so glad that you did this, we get so stuck on people with degrees, right? You and I are well-degreed. I mean, yes. We're well degreed, but you know what? There's a lot of great talent that doesn't have degrees, isn't there? And the book kind of, you kind of poke at that a little bit in here, that you have some really talented people that you're maybe overlooking that don't have a degree.
Yeah, and I'll tell you where the inspiration came for that is that when Dr. Lakhani and I left Intel on the 15th of June in 2007. We took one other colleague with us, a woman by the name of Marlene Lundy. So Marlene and I worked together. She helped manage the First Line Manager program. She was originally kind of my meeting planner and so forth. And Marlene is just absolutely brilliant. She can do anything. She did the cover of the book. She did the layout of the book. She built our website. You give anything to Marlene, and she can do it. So what we recognized is that when to start up the Magna leadership was Marlene would always tell us we have two thinkers and a doer, right? And Marlene was the doer, you know. And the interesting thing about Marlene is she could do anything that you asked her to do. Yet she does not have any college degree, right? And the one thing I recognized when she was working for me and then ultimately working with me was that I needed to get her developed. And because she was a mom and at the time, you know, going back to school wasn't an option for her, that, you know, kind of mentoring her or getting her the right type of learning within the company really allowed her to escalate. So when we left, we took her with us so that, you know, the two thinkers and the doer could actually get some work done. So she's really, I would say, one of the main inspirations for Dora, right? Who, anyone that reads the story will recognize that here you have this person with incredible talent, yet for some reason, for whatever reason it was, doesn't have the letters after her name.
Maybe that's why secret number 11 is so powerful. Empower people based on their ability and willingness. Implied here is not necessarily their degree.
Yeah, I mean, I think a degree certainly is helpful. I don't want to say anything bad about having a degree. Getting all the degrees was just wonderful for me. And something I would do over and over and over again. Other people may not have the advantage that we have if they are, you know, if they've got grit. You know, if you read any of the books by, you know, Angela Duckworth and so forth, and they have this continuous learning mentality. They have a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset, and you find those people, hire them. Right. And if they have a degree, that's nice. The thing is I'd much rather hire somebody with a growth mindset with incredible grit and no degree than someone that has a degree and has a fixed mindset.
I am one of those people, as a coach. I coach executives and CEOs, and a lot of times, sometimes the degree, and I listen, I love my degree. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to bash it, but at the same time, I also recognize that, we're built with natural skills, gifts, and abilities. And sometimes when we go towards those, you actually find that you're more successful than if you were to go in and, try to get all the degrees that you can, and it's not working out for you. So, and I find that oftentimes that happens. And so I just thought it was good, because I want people to know that it's not, the degree does not necessarily make you successful. I guess that was the point of it. I want to talk about, though, in chapter 4, called "Follow the Yellow Brick Road," before we close here, because I know it's gonna take time, is John D. Mayer, who's the management consultant of Lollipop Confectionaries. he had an acronym called ALAS.
Yeah.
ALAS. Can we talk about ALAS? Because I think this is a really simple construct that I think any business can apply. So help people understand what ALAS is and how we use it, and then what it is.
Sure. It's just one of the things that we learned is that, first of all, people won't remember very much unless you provide some kind of acronym attached to it. And acronyms, anyone that's worked at Intel or in a high-tech organization know that organizations absolutely love acronyms. So we used to call them at Intel TLAs. In fact, Intel had a book, I still think I have it, that they would print on a regular basis of the Intel TLAs. So I got very used to creating these acronyms. And one of the acronyms we actually created for the book, it follows the model that we have. We use something called the ATOM model, which is very similar to ALAS, where you assess, you design, you act, and you measure. And for the book, we wanted it to be a little bit more playful, so that they could use the term ALAS, right? When things kind of emerge, right, and you can see things, you can use ALAS. And ALAS stands for assess as well. Second is link, right? That's the L, right? So you're kind of linking all the concepts together. The third is apply, right? So that you can actually try it, kind of in a safe environment before you use it. And then the last thing is the structure or measure, right? That's very, very important. That most people don't, that they try something, but they don't institutionalize it. They don't create a process to replicate it. And every time you have to, redo kind of the invention over and over. And Intel was a very, very process-driven organization. And one thing I learned to love is once you figure out something to do, figure out how to scale it for size and how to make it also generalizable, so that it may work here in manufacturing. How can we get that to work, in the HR world, or in purchasing or finance or whatever? And if you could create the models, then you can really make a difference. And that's where ALAS came out of.
And we would apply this. How would we apply ALAS in specifically?
We use ALAS for just about everything that we do, right? So the key is our tendency is to live in the apply or the act mode, right? That we all, and this is what we find with all managers in particular, more so than leaders. When there's the problem, they immediately jump to conclusion and application. And they don't take that time to step back and say, this has happened 12 times in the last 12 days. I need to kind of assess what's going on, figure out what the root cause is. You can use tools like the 5 whys, and there's lots and lots of different tools, particularly organizations that deal with Lean and Six Sigma and so forth. The key is step back, take a pause, take a breath, assess what's happening, kind of link the different pieces together so you can see it, and then come up with a solution for the application. And quite often what we do is we as humans, we like to turn the crank, get it done, one and done, move it off the plate, back and forth, right? What's the next challenge? And it's kind of what I would say is kind of like the whack-a-mole, right? Rather than trying to figure out how to get a bigger hammer and how to train to whack the moles faster, maybe you can just learn how to figure out how to move the machine and unplug it in the back of your Peter Piper pizza, rather than just figuring out how to whack the moles harder and faster.
That's beautiful. His name is Dr. Kevin Gazzara. Dr. Kevin, tell people how they can get a hold of you.
Lots and lots of different ways, Jay. You can reach me if you go to our site at magnaleadership.com. You can contact me directly. I'd love to have these conversations. I love to do discovery. And my promise to you is if you have an interest, if you have an organization that just isn't quite getting to where you're getting, send me an email, kevin@magnaleadership.com, and let's have a Zoom conversation. My promise to you is I do absolutely zero selling. There's no selling. We have plenty of work, right? I can give you dozens and dozens of recommendations, and we like to work with organizations that we share their values, that we can be authentic. And one of the things, Jay, that's really worked well for me is we wrote this book 2008, and then we did a revision in 2011. And it's been really one of the best sales tools that we've ever done, right? Handing it to a CEO and saying, "Hey, this is our model. If this resonates with you, if Osborne Technologies and Marvelous Snacks, if that kind of approach resonates with you, then we're a good choice. And if it doesn't really resonate with you and you don't kind of believe in this kind of approach, you've got a free book, right? That's kind of it. So lots of ways. Hey, if you want to, first thing I do every morning is I spend the first 45 minutes of my day doing research, because I'm a researcher. I love doing research. And if, depending on what you like, if you can follow us on LinkedIn, we have a LinkedIn page. We post 2 or 3 articles, only useful stuff on management, leadership, org behavior, conflict, communication, authenticity, right? You can follow us there or connect with me at Kevin Gazzara, Dr. Kevin Gazzara on LinkedIn. If you want to follow me on Twitter, we just hit 52,000 followers on Twitter. And it's Dr. Kevin, DOCTOR, Kevin, not DR, Dr. Kevin. Follow us there. Also, we post some of the same articles. And we even have a Facebook page that you can follow us on our fan page at Facebook, also under Magna Leadership Solutions. So lots of ways. Take it, please. Anyone listening, take advantage. This is all free stuff. We're not going to spam you or whatever. Our goal is to help you become a better leader.
I just had somebody on Castbox FM Live say, redo the link. So I just posted the link there. I'll be posting the link on the write-up as well. So people are begging and chomping at the bit. So we get that out to you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen, hey, this is the show, right? You know what? You're in control of 3 things in your life: your attitude, your effort, and your resilience. I know it can be hard. Sometimes it can be difficult. And I know that life can throw you a lot of things, but you are in control. It's up to you. Take control of those 3 things. Let me be back next week with another great guest. It's going to be another great show. It's going to be another great book. And you know what I say to you every week, and you know what that is. Ciao, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Jay, for letting